Think You Can Write, where we give serious writing critique without taking ourselves too seriously. My name is Lindsay, and with me is...
Torsha Baker.
Janette, Rallison.
Brock Booher.
All right, and the way the show works is we are going to have someone read, and in this case, Janette. And the rest of us will pretend that we're agents and editors, and if we think the submission would be rejected, we will... Except for Janette this time, who abuses her power, and we have decided to take her buzzer away and make her narrate.
They did. This is totally what happened. You buzz someone twice and you have to narrate.
Or 3 times.
Or 3.
I'm pretty sure. It's
If
3.
Brock hadn't taken away your buzzer, it would have been the first 3 buzz we've had.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should just be my thing now that whenever you use as incorrectly, I buzz you. And then maybe people would hate me more. Okay.
But the writing would be much better.
Yes. That's what we're here for.
Okay. All right. Clyde swept past the guards and through the doorway. His gaze settled on a frail old man pacing in a nightshirt with a journal in hand. He sighed in relief. Your Majesty, you called? The king looked up from the gold-trimmed pages. His eyes reflected something deeper, more profound than the purely amicable tone his voice carried. You can call me Dascom. No sense in referring to me like that when I'll be dead by morning. Pardon me, Your Majesty, but that's the worst excuse you used yet. You would settle for that when you think it's your last one? Dascom closed the book and turned toward him. Wow, double buzzing.
Oh.
Okay.
You go for. Oh, go. All right. I just kind of got confused right there. I mean, I understand there's dialogue going on, but I was like, Your Majesty, but that's the worst excuse you've used yet. You would settle for that when you think it's your last one. And I was kind of like, what is he talking about here? So I think I know what's going on, but I'm not sure. So it just kind of threw me out of the story. So I was a little confused.
All right, well, I buzzed for the same thing. It and that often can be replaced with the actual whatever it is you're talking about, and they'll make the reading more clear. Then we'll know what that means or what it means. So that is my comment on it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Dascom closed the book and turned toward him, pressing his thin lips together. Did I read this already?
Nope.
Okay, good. Okay. I've asked you 1,000 times now. Is that good enough for the last excuse? It wouldn't hurt to call me by my name just once. It was given to me for a reason, you know. Clyde clicked his tongue. Part of him despised the king for attempting to treat him like an equal. In no way could he ever hope to compare to a man of such legacy. I can't. I'm just your servant. He drew a deep breath, gathering his courage to present the matter. And do you have to keep talking about death like that? Just because the immortality spell ends tomorrow doesn't mean you're going to die right away. It could be years. Relax, Clyde. There's no need for fear of my death. God knows I don't. This body is 87 years old, you know. It's growing useless. Dascom tossed his journal onto his bed, where, curiously, dozens of journals were haphazardly stacked. I prepared everything...
Okay. The reason I waited a while to buzz it because I was waiting for more internal thought. So we know we're in Clyde's mind, but I feel like I'm watching a movie rather than reading a book. The beauty of reading a book is we get to see what these people are thinking. And I'm not getting a whole lot of that from Clyde. The other thing, too, is that he won't call the king Dascom, and yet he thinks of him as Dascom. So that was another thing that kind of confused me as far as his thought process, because that's not explained at all. So, you know, I feel like there's a lot of room here for giving us voice, and I'm just not feeling the voice. The other thing that was a little confusing to me is that, you know, this is obviously either fantasy or, you know, back historical, because we've got kings, and yet the language feels very modern. So it just kind of threw me off a little bit that, okay, what time period is this? Where, you know, it didn't feel like it fit what I was reading. You know, the language didn't feel like it fit what I was reading. So those are my thoughts just right now.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So to finish this off, now I just need you to count these. You remember how many there are, don't you? Okay. So now we've reached
The best
Yeah.
the best sentence in the whole page for me was just because the immortality spell ends tomorrow doesn't mean you're going to die right away. It could be years. So that intrigued me more than anything else in the story, because that gave me a sense of what the conflict was or what the tension was.
Consequences.
With consequences. I get a sense that this scene is necessary. It's probably the right place to start. It just doesn't flow well.
Yeah.
It's just a little confusing.
I was confused right off the bat, and now having read through it, let's go through this. Okay, Clyde swept past the guards and through the doorway. We are assuming Clyde is the point of view character, but we're not sure. His gaze, okay, so now it's his, settled on a frail old man pacing in a nightshirt with a journal in hand. And right there, that's a little bit overloaded because it sounds a little bit like the nightshirt has a journal in hand. So,
and think of the passiveness of that. His gaze settled on a frail. That's some nice
Right.
literary feel to it, but there's not active.
right,
It's
okay.
still passive.
And there's a point of view problem because when we say a frail old man, then that sounds like he doesn't know who this is. Like this is a stranger. He
Yeah.
doesn't have a name.
I almost
But then
buzzed on
he
that.
sighed in relief, "Your Majesty, you called." Okay, so is he in his mind when he sees the king thinking of him as a frail old man? No, he's thinking of him as king, whatever his last name is, Dascom, you know? And so you have to be true to that point of view. And what we try and do as writers a lot of times is we're trying to get that description in, but don't try and, like rush, or sneak that in. His gaze fell on the king, and then tell us, what he was doing and describe him as frail, so that we know that he's frail and old. But yeah, okay, so. And then no sense of referring to me like that when I'll be dead in the morning, which I love that sentence. But when he says, "But that's the worst excuse you've used yet," excuse for what?
Yeah.
I had no idea what he was talking about. And then you would settle for that when you think it's your last one, and it's like, is his last excuse, or are they talking about something completely different?
His last morning.
Yeah,
Right.
so
If it is his last excuse, why does he have a last excuse? And why does he
Excuse for
need?
what?
yeah.
And why does he need, I don't know, like a perfect last excuse? I mean, all of that could be interesting, but
Right.
we don't have any of that
Right,
filled out for us.
and because partially this is because we have no internal
Thought will
Thought
really
of
correct
you.
a lot of this.
at all. So,
Yeah.
like there is really actually, I don't think any internal thought in this.
Other than relief. He sighed in relief, like the feeling
Right.
of relief.
Although,
No,
I
he
Although,
did.
yeah,
I can
that's true,
tell-
you could describe
No, he
somebody else
despised the
sighing in
king for
relief.
attempting
Yeah.
to treat him like an equal.
Oh.
So there is a little
There's
bit
a little
there.
bit.
Oh, okay. All right, but we need a lot more to know what is going on, because something interesting is going on, and I do think this is an interesting premise, and it's probably the right place, but we need to study some deep point of view, and then add this in, and it will change the whole nature of this and make it a lot less confusing.
Okay, do we
That's
go
why
on
they took my buzzer away.
Next, we're gonna take the microphone away so she doesn't talk for 20 minutes.
So I was just rewrite the whole thing for
I'm
All
just
right,
gonna ask
should
her next time just to sum up.
you. Sorry.
Should we go ahead and go for voting then?
Sure.
All right.
You wanna start? Sorry, you're in this time.
Okay,
I
I'll
always
start
get to go
mine.
first.
I'm gonna give it a right, and not for any of the reasons that the rest of the panel have talked about, but so often I'll point out with first page submissions is, I wanna know why this story is different from any of the others. I'm gonna guess a fantasy story, right? I wanna know why this world is different from any of the other fantasy worlds, and I wanna know what is gonna make this so exciting and fun for me to read, that I'm gonna invest my time. And I don't have any of this. Other than a nightgown, I have really no visual of what the setting is. I really don't know who these people are. The king's gonna die, and I have to say, I don't care. Because I don't know who the king is. I don't
Plus,
know
Randy
why.
likes killing people. There's that.
Well,
so.
and there's
And
that
his name is
too.
Dascom, I mean, really?
But in this
King
case,
Dascom?
I don't know why
Sounds
if the king
rascally.
died, that would be a good or bad thing. This could be a horrible
Could
evil
be.
king, and maybe if he dies tomorrow, that'll be great. But I don't know that. And I'm gonna throw out something here. So we're coming from Clyde, and he's the servant of the king. I'm wondering if that's really the great story here. I mean, is the story the king, or is it coming from the attendant. It would be an odd story if the point of view really is from the attendant looking at the king. And I have no idea if that's what they're doing. but that
Maybe
would
it's a
be
frame
kind of-
story and we're just catching the first part of it,
That's possible.
so.
So those are my concerns, and I'm gonna give it a right.
Yeah, I'm also gonna give it a right, and I told you, internal thought is really huge. I feel like with all the submissions that we've read over the past few months, the one thing that I felt like could carry me through confusion or not sure what's going on is if there's strong voice. And you're gonna get that strong voice through the internal thought. Show us why you are writing from this character's point of view. Why is this character so fascinating, and their view on the world or whatever it is, and maybe their quirkiness, maybe their, there has to be a reason you're writing from this point of view character. Let us see that. So that's what I'll leave you with.
Yep, and I already said enough, but write internal thought, baby. It will help you out.
So you're giving it a right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Right on.
I'm gonna also give it a right. I think the premise is good. I like the scene actually does appeal to me. What's lacking are maybe pertinent details that Clyde would see as his character, which would show us his characterization, their relationship. I think that leaves out a lot of detail. The dialogue, I always like good back and forth dialogue, and I think you've actually captured that pretty well. You just need to clean it up and take out some of the confusion with that, and do some things in the dialogue that help us understand the characterization better. So I'm also going to give it a right. I think, again, maybe it's starting in the right place. Maybe it's a frame story. I'm not exactly sure. Like Randy, I don't really care yet. But I do think it has potential. And I like, even though I teased Dascom for his name, King Dascom, I mean, that's unusual. I've never heard of King Dascom before. So I'll give you points for that, too.
All right, so did we get it right? Or do you disagree? Or any other kind of comments you'd like to leave, please feel free to do
Janette
so.
should be given back a buzzer.
And should we permanently remove
Make it
Janette's
two.
buzzer?
Now
so
she has
can't-
to go for it.
Or should she just have all the
Power
buzzers?
again, it's heady.
Okay,
Oh, boy.
until next time.
Oh, wait, don't forget
Wait.
to subscribe.
Oh,
and
yes,
subscribe,
please
because you can have
subscribe.
more of this.
And tell your friends. Have them submit so that they
Tell
can be
them
abused
all.
just like you were, okay?
And improve your craft and
Yes.
your
Oh,
writing,
right.
and, all the good
And
things that come with
That's
it.
what it's.
Trust
that's
me,
what it's-
this was the first person that started critiquing my work.
And we're
so
still
I've been
friends.
through it. Yes, and I still love her. So.
I gotta add, as I was reading this and you were making comments, I was thinking about the writing I did this morning, and I went, oh, yeah, I better go back and look at that, make sure they don't see this before. So, it's all of us, trust me.
Yeah.
Before Janette sees it and buzzes it.
Yes.
You know, I'm surprised Janette just doesn't walk around all the time with one of these.
Do for my
That's
children.
kind of fun.
You used the
Oh,
word
no.
like 3 times in a row. Bless you.
I'm sorry if I gave her an idea. Okay, so until next time.
Get ready.
Get set.
Right.